This podcast is a quest for well-being, a quest for a meaningful life through the exploration of fundamental truth. Enlightening ideas, insights on physical, mental, and spiritual health. The inspiration is love. The aspiration is to awaken new ways of thinking that can lead us to a new way of being well. Welcome to Body, Mind, and Soul Healing Conversations.
When a child or teen is struggling with autism or their mental health, it impacts the entire family. That's why Meliora Health takes a family-first care approach to support your child's and your family's wellness journey. Their innovative online platform delivers immediate support and gives your entire family access to expert-led help whenever and wherever you need it, allowing your family to move forward together. As part of the UK's Helios group, they've helped thousands of families struggling with mental health and neurodiverse conditions, and they can help yours too. Valeria interviews Rich Andrews. He is the founder and CEO of Helios UK and Meliora Health USA. Having close family and friends who've suffered from mental health conditions and dementia, Rich experienced firsthand the challenge of accessing support for both those affected by the condition and the families involved. In 2013, he founded Helios to tackle the global inequality of healthcare provision, affecting over 1 billion people worldwide with mental health and neurodevelopmental conditions. His passion for combining overall well-being, science, and technology has led him to develop innovative services that optimize the human touch in the delivery of care to empower people and their families to live healthier and happier lives. This has led Helios to become the digital leader in the delivery of specialist mental health and neurodiverse clinical services for children and young people. Helios has now expanded into the U.S., with its U.S. subsidiary operations under the brand name Meliora Health. Prior to founding Helios, Rich gained knowledge and experience of global healthcare environments and health inequalities from an international career spanning over a decade, working in biotech companies. Rich is a board member of the Mental Health Network at the UK's NHS Confederation and co-chairs their National Digital Mental Health Forum. He is also an avid investor in startup businesses that have a clear societal impact. Meet Rich at meliora-health.com and helios.org.uk. Here's the interview with Rich Andrews.
In your own words, who is Rich Andrews?
So I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm very passionate about making a change in the world. And as you'll hopefully hear about today, the change that we're making is with children, young people's lives, and hoping to ensure that they live a fulfilled childhood before they move into their adulthood stage.
Entrepreneurship. How did you get started with that? What was the, let's say, the inspiration to become an entrepreneur?
So I think in a way it was almost in my blood from an early age. My grandparents were entrepreneurs. They ran several small businesses. And my mum also became an entrepreneur. So it's kind of through the family, we're kind of very entrepreneurial. And I've always kind of felt that at some point during my life, I would like to embark on that similar path. But I never quite felt I had the right drive and passion behind an idea, as I had an early stage career in the healthcare sector. And it was only until family members and friends who were experiencing mental health challenges that I suddenly got connected with an idea that I felt actually I can get really excited and passionate about making a real difference if I can think about ways to solve what is a crisis with people's mental health. And that was kind of how it started several years ago.
This is a beautiful area to work in, mental health. When I think about mental health, I do also think about emotional health and happiness. So they're all connected in a way. Do you see what you do as the purpose of your life? Or do you see also a difference between having a purpose or being passionate and also having a mission? Are they all the same or somehow different, Rich?
They do overlap. I think they can be slightly different at an individual level, but I think there's definitely overlap between them. I certainly feel like I have real purpose and meaning in my life today. And of course, that's an important component of overall happiness as individuals in society, if we find purpose or meaning. And certainly with the drive that I have and the passion around this initiative or idea that was started several years ago, it really has connected for me personally at that kind of purpose and meaning level. And it doesn't feel like I'm working. And that's the real noticeable difference I've experienced since leaving a career in the kind of more corporate sector.
And I wonder if most of us human beings can do this, even within the working for other companies. Do you think there's something about becoming an entrepreneur that allows this to happen, or it could happen to anyone, anywhere?
It can absolutely happen to anyone, anywhere, to find what for them is their purpose or what they want to connect with their life and find meaning through. So you don't have to become an entrepreneur to find that. I've just been lucky enough that path I've taken through starting this company and trying to make a difference to people's lives, that's really connected with me personally. But certainly you can find that in all sorts of ways that relate to you as an individual.
Another open question I have for you is about success. How do you define success these days?
So success, I think you can look at success through many different lenses. For me, success is actually almost unreachable in a way because we've got this mission or vision as a company, and that's linked to our overall kind of purpose. And that's to ensure that any child or young person can have access to care for their mental health and emotional well-being that fits around their lifestyle. And for me, that when we reach that will be success in a way. So it's almost an impossible kind of reach to a degree, but it really drives us in our thinking. And of course, I'm being kind of generally tough on myself with that because we have touched so many lives over the years and made so much difference to families, how families function and move forward. And of course, at a family individual level and at a family kind of collective level, we've had so much success there. So you do have to look at it through different lenses. But personally, with this kind of drive over the years and what we're trying to achieve, we've got this overall success that we're aiming for.
What is to be mentally healthy from your perspective? What would that look like?
So it is, of course, on an individual basis. So I think it's really important that we recognize that each of us has our own sort of level of baseline happiness, and that's different from one person to another. And I think from sort of general mental health and emotional well-being, part of that is resilience that comes into that kind of factor. And good mental health and emotional well-being is be able to cope with the highs and the excitement of life and the joy and the successes you have in life, but it's also to go through the challenges that you have in life. And everyone works through those very differently. We develop different skills on how we cope with various challenges and various stresses on our lives, and to develop skills that you can move through that and learn through that and move forward and towards enjoying life again. And so good mental health, emotional well-being is the ups and downs and how you ride that and ensure you can continue to appreciate the important things in life, family members and friends, and do things that really maintain your level of happiness.
And another open question is about This is a very open question about the human experience. What do you think that is?
So that is a very broad question indeed, and I think of human experience in the sense of kind of combining curiosity with learning, and I think about how naturally we're very curious as a species, and sometimes we lose that a little bit in our lives. Which is a real shame, because when you explore new things, when you try new things, when you try to challenge the status quo in a particular field and take the courage to make a step in that direction, you just learn so much. And I think for me, part of human experience is that curiosity, exploring new things, learning from new things. But one thing you can't ignore is just the power of human connection as part of human experience. So how we connect with other members, whether that's family members and friends, how we connect in that broader picture of society overall through human connection, I think that just enriches human experience overall.
Another beautiful answer. And I think I didn't ask the question quite completely. I meant to say, what is the purpose of the human experience? But your answer, you just said it all. And that's funny that you mentioned curiosity, learning, because I woke up today thinking about this. That is so true. By being open and curious, then it seems to create space for resilience, because we are, in a way, creating that necessary space to embrace what is present, or to be present with what is present. So that makes so much sense to me. Thank you for saying that too, Rich. And with that in mind, I have a few more opening questions. The other one's about spirituality. Do you have any spiritual practices or belief systems, ideas about life?
So personally, actually, I have very limited experience in that area, Valeria. So for me, actually, I want to be really open-minded about that and to learn more about that, because I do know that spirituality and how you follow that path, people find a lot of meaning with that in their life, and they can connect in a way that they have perhaps struggled with engaging with life through other ways. So I think it's really important that we enable the ability for people to explore that and see if it really connects with them and helps them in different ways. So yeah, I'm very open-minded to it, but I don't have much experience of that. So maybe one to come back to you on.
Yes, that sounds good. Although I see everything as spiritual, there's nothing that it's not spiritual. The way you speak, it's very spiritual to me, but it might not sound the same for other people. So yes, we're so unique, all of us, that we can never, in a way, label anything with this final kind of say. I don't see life that way. So, but yeah, I would love to hear more from you about spirituality one day.
Yes.
Please let me know when you get to those knowledges. And I have one more question for you. Yeah, the last opening question is about healing. What is healing to you, and what are some of the obstacles to healing?
I think healing is a complex journey with healing. And I think part of healing is expectation setting. And as we think about a path to recovery, whether it's physically or mentally and spiritually through healing as well, that we set ourselves kind of appropriate expectations and goals through that. I think that's a really important component to healing. I think generally around ensuring we do have the skills and coping techniques that can support healing as well. I think that's a key area. So that sort of mental resilience or emotional resilience is also a central component to healing. This whole idea of mind and body, and you can't separate that. I think we need to remind ourselves of that. So whether it's a physical condition, quite often we see through the data, in fact, that people who have physical conditions and how they try to recover from that, if they have mental health challenges like anxiety or depression, that can actually make their physical condition a lot worse and prevent their recovery and healing. And so this whole idea of mind and body and making sure both are working together and working in that same direction, and the mind has the skills and coping techniques and support to have a healthy mindset, healthy emotional well-being, is so central overall to body health.
That's another wonderful answer. I love your wisdom, Rich. Yes, so true about the connectivity of it all, body, mind, although I do include the spiritual aspect of being human too. But yeah, body, mind, they influence one another all the time. And I love the way you say that too, mental and emotional resilience. That's a beautiful way of saying. Let's talk about what you do in your companies. You are the founder and CEO of Helios and also Meliora, if I pronounce those words correctly. So talk to me about the main purpose of creating these companies.
So it was 8 years ago that I decided to take that first step and quit my career to start Helios. And that was because I had family members and friends who were really challenged with their mental health, and also dementia, which is not a mental health condition, but also is very destabilizing, not only for the individual with dementia, but also on the family overall. And it was seeing family members and friends just bounce around the system, unable to access care when they needed it, and that care when they did access it was of varied quality and therefore varied experience. And it was quite distressing to see either a family member or a friend go through that and knowing how to help them and whether they'll get the support in the end. So decided to kind of take a leap, and I felt the system was broken and I felt I could fix it. And it was a really strange feeling because I didn't have any sort of my own sort of anxiety about kind of taking that leap into the unknown and starting Helios back then. And maybe that's because I had a huge amount of naivety about making that first step, which probably helps as well, I think, to a degree. So for me, that was a moment that sort of crystallized in my mind that actually I now kind of got a sense of what I wanted to achieve in my life. I feel like there's something there that needs perhaps my help to address. And so the one thing I didn't quite understand, though, fully is what other families were going through to understand, well, what really does need to be fixed? What could the solutions be? And so I got a good friend of mine who's a psychiatrist in the UK to get me approved as a clinical observer in the NHS, which is the UK's National Health Service. And I got approved as this clinical observer within the area of severe mental illness. So I accompanied clinical teams going into around about 100 homes in a 6-week period. And those homes were being just ripped apart by severe mental illness. So an individual in that family who had schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, or a more general kind of overarching definition of psychosis or bipolar disorder. And going into these homes, accompanying these clinical teams, it was just this incredible eye-opening experience, seeing these families just being devastated by a loved one with severe mental illness and seeing them really challenged, seeing even the individual themselves really struggle with those conditions. And that, for me, helped me understand a few things. One is just the importance of just making care so accessible to someone who has a mental health challenge, but also how do we bring the family together as well, because they're also really struggling and they also play such a key role to ensuring that family environment, that home, is conducive to recovery. So with that experience, which is also very emotional, and I'm not a clinician by background, so going in and seeing many families experience that was a very heartbreaking and emotional experience for me. And what came out of it was this idea of, we have to make this easy for families. We perhaps need to look at technology that can be a facilitator for bringing great care in a really accessible way through that channel. And so 8 years ago, we then built our very first clinical service delivered through technology to families with severe mental illness. And we called that company Helios. And since then, we've developed a very specialized service, which we'll get into more details, no doubt, Valeria. But that was the genesis of Helios 8 years ago, and how 100 families at the time really shaped my thinking and understanding of what's needed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm listening to you and feeling the emotions that you've might been through, and I know they're not easy. So that's such a courageous thing to do. So I thank you for opening a business that is grounded in personal experience too, and feelings, emotions. That's an interesting kind of idea, concept, that in order to help others, we needed to go deeper and understand them. Perhaps not necessarily go through what they're going through, which it's not necessary, but understanding, kind of being close enough to see their reality. I thank you for that. That's very courageous.
It's very kind, Valeria, but it's been a real team effort, naturally, to get to where we are today. But that understanding of what other people are going through is so important, that we always continue to understand that as we develop and learn about trying new things.
I have seen some of the healthcare system in the United States and also in France. I was there for a time. It kind of surprised me that not everyone's like that, but there's a lot of disconnection, I would say, that's the word, between the provider and the patient. So there's a very little understanding at the deeper human level. So the question, I guess, that I have for you, because I'm not familiar with your system and how it works, how does it work going from the assessment to diagnosis and then the treatment? I would love to hear more about that process, Rich.
So after sort of initially starting Helios and focusing on severe mental illness, largely for adults 8 years ago, after a few years in, realized actually there's even more of a crisis with children's mental health and young people's mental health. So over 6 years ago, decided to change the focus of the company to try and solve the crisis of children and young people's mental health. So today, that's where we really specialize as a company. And so what we then offer is, in essence, a fairly comprehensive digital clinic for children, young people, and their families. And that means that they can undertake an assessment of their mental health with us. They can also have a very specialized assessment for a neurodevelopmental condition, which includes conditions such as autism and ADHD. So we've got this capability to deliver a very high quality experience where our own clinical team at Helios, and in the US, that's under brand name Meliora Health, that it's our own clinical team that then connects through a technology interface, which we've built, which involves a video link. So we get to see that young person on the screen, or that child, and the family members can then join, whether it's from the same kind of screen and they're kind of sat on that sofa and all looking through that one camera, or whether they want to be in different rooms. It just enables that busy family to come together through whatever sort of location they would prefer. They then connect with our clinical team, where they then receive a particular service that they need for their particular circumstance. So that could be a mental health assessment or a neurodevelopmental assessment, where we would then understand their needs, their challenges, and then, if appropriate, make a diagnosis. So a diagnosis of anxiety disorder, of depression, of an eating disorder, of a trauma-related condition, or, of course, for autism or ADHD if needed. And then we are able to offer a package of psychological support after that diagnosis So if they are diagnosed with social anxiety disorder, for example, and they're sort of 13 or 14 years of age, then we may recommend that they have cognitive behavioral therapy, which really is the most evidence-based approach for social anxiety disorder. And so our care team would then, through an appropriately trained clinician from Helios or Meliora, would then deliver cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT as it's known, to that young person over a period of weeks. And what we like to do is engage the family through that process as well, so that the whole sort of family environment then is conducive to better support of that young person. And supporting that whole experience, we have then other digital tools that young person can use. So things such as Think Ninja, where they can use that particular tool 24/7. It's got great skills within that tool. So we try to use different channels in effect through digital to deliver our services.
So the company in the UK, it's called Helios, and in the United States is Meliora. So I would love to hear from you about the meaning of these words. I did do some research, but I would love to hear from you.
Yes, so Helios is the Greek sun god. So without the A, so Helios is the Greek sun god. So we added the A in there. So we actually have heal as part of the word, which is an amazing connection. And with it ending in iOS, that's also then a slight slant to the fact that we're delivering our care through technology. So it's the Greek sun god, and that, of course, is about bringing life and joy with the warmth of the sun. And so we felt that's a really nice connection to what we're trying to achieve with Helios, which is to ultimately help a child or young person, their family, move forward to the best of their potential, enjoy life, and so on. And actually our logo for Helios is two figures coming together, which actually forms the shape of a heart itself, but is also two figures hugging. And that, again, symbolizes the importance not only of human connection, but also of family member and the child or young person who has challenges with their mental health or a neurodevelopmental condition. So we really thought a lot about kind of how our name and logo communicates what we're about. And with the US, company there is called Meliora. And unfortunately, we couldn't use Helios because there was just so many iterations of Helios in the US that we felt we needed a different name. And so we chose Meliora Health, and Meliora means better, which is also, we thought, a fantastic connection to what we're trying to achieve as a company. So yeah, so that's the kind of the meaning and background of our two names.
It sounds to me that it was, everything to me is spiritual, as I said to you earlier. And that really sounds like divine inspiration. That's what it comes to me, because I see the connections. Nothing is disconnected, really. It's just a feeling. We have feelings of disconnection, but everything is so connected. It's just kind of finding a way back to that connection. And thank you for helping, for being one of the contributors to that, Rich, for us making that connection again. Talk to me for a moment about neurodevelopmental conditions and neurodiversity. I would love to hear more about the obstacles faced by the neurodiverse community.
Yes, so neurodevelopmental conditions include conditions like autism and ADHD, and that then sort of embraces what we call neurodiversity. Unfortunately, we have in society sort of many challenges for our neurodiverse community. And the first challenge actually really is how they're able to access assessment and diagnosis services at an earlier stage to understand if they have a condition like autism or ADHD. And in the UK, for example, a child could wait 2 years for an autism assessment. And in the US, the wait can also be 6 months or longer to receive the opportunity to have an autism assessment. And what we do know is that when you are delayed at getting an autism assessment, it can actually impact the development of that child. So in essence, the earlier you have a autism assessment, the greater opportunity you have to then tap into more support that can really help shape the development of your child a lot sooner. So one of the challenges is just making sure that we, of course, make assessments much more available and more easily accessible for families. And then we then think about other challenges, and that then includes ensuring that there's appropriate support for not only the individual who may then have a diagnosis of autism or ADHD, but also for the family themselves on how they move forward. And unfortunately, the support available, whether it's in the UK, the US, or any country really, is so varied. And that's also really challenging for a young person to get that right support and to really help them in those early years to live with some very challenging aspects that can occur with having autism or ADHD. So I think for Meliora in the US, maybe great just to mention that we are live in New York State, which is the first state that we've started within. And we plan to expand beyond New York State this year as well. So we have plans to be in as many states as quickly as we can. And within New York State, you can access Meliora either privately, so to sort of self-pay for our services, but we're also available through various health insurance plans as well within the state. So we're trying to ensure that we overcome access challenges to receiving great care. And of course, one of those access challenges is ensuring that we are available through insurance plans, as well as providing the opportunity to access us privately.
Yeah, that's great information. I'll have the link on your podcast profile too. My ending questions, let me see. I have way too many. Let me ask you this one. This is a fun one from my perspective, Rich. What do you love most about being in a human body?
So I think it's just this thirst for learning. And that's learning through human interaction and learning from every interaction you have with people you meet. Just that ability to connect, to listen, to test beliefs, to change those beliefs that we create through our lives. When we kind of see maybe new data or as we gather new learnings. And I think that's just the most incredible thing about the human body is just how we have that capacity to learn, that capability to question our own thinking, that drive and curiosity to keep exploring. I think that's what's just so incredible about the human body.
I love your wisdom. Thank you so much. It's from the heart and it's timeless. So thank you so much for being you again, Rich. And my last question is, what 3 experiences you wish everyone to have before they lose the body, before they die?
I think one of the more challenging experiences I think society faces today is really living in the moment and extracting as much pleasure and learning from that moment as you can. We live in a society where we are moving at 100 miles an hour.
Yes.
And we're always thinking about the future. We're always reflecting on the past. But I think very few times and very few of us, and me included in this, really live in those moments and to get all that enrichment that we can get from appreciating whether it's the sound of nature where we are in that moment, whether it's really engaging with whoever we're present with in the moment. So I think people do move through life at speed, not really appreciating that. And I think that would be sort of my wish in a way, that we're able to just stay in the moment for longer.
Oh, wow. That's a beautiful 3-in-1 wish. Yes, I agree. Absolutely agree. Thank you so much, Rich, for your presence here today, for the work you're inspired to do from the heart. I can feel that. I love your wisdom. It sounds timeless to me. And thank you for everything you do exactly the way you do. And before we say goodbye today, where can we find more information about you, your products, work, services, and future projects?
So you can find through Meliora-Health.com or through Helios.org.uk. And either one of those, you'll be able to learn more about the great work that we're doing with children, teenagers, and their families.
Yes, and I'll have those 2 links on your podcast profile too. Thank you so much again, and we'll talk soon. Bye for now, Rich.
Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you for listening. To learn more about Rich Andrews and his work, please visit meliora-health.com and helios.org.uk.
To learn more about this podcast, please visit fitforjoy.org/podcast. Thank you again for listening, and bye for now.